Her touch meant instant death. He held her anyway. No one expected this. It was the kind of day that could change everything. The hospital was busy as usual with the sounds of beeping machines and hurried footsteps echoing down the halls. Brace. Doctors and nurses moved quickly from room to room, handling emergencies, giving treatments, and making sure everything ran smoothly. But today, something unusual was about to happen. A woman was brought in, rushed by the ambulance team, her face pale and strained with worry. She had been living with a dangerous secret. A secret so frightening that it had kept her isolated for years. Her condition was unique, rare, and terrifying. Her touch, they said, was lethal. One simple contact with her skin, and people would drop dead. No one could explain why, but it had happened so many times that she was forced to live alone, away from everyone. She had come to this hospital because there was nowhere else to go. The hospital staff knew what to expect when they saw her. They knew the rules. No one could touch her. Her condition had been carefully monitored, and only the doctors, wearing protective gloves, had any contact with her. But even with all the care taken, people still died. The strange condition of her body was so powerful, it seemed impossible to control. One doctor, though, wasn't scared. He had heard of this woman before and had read the reports about her, but he didn't believe in the rumors or the fear. He had always been the kind of person to look for a solution rather than just accept things as they were. He believed that there was more to this situation than anyone could understand. As he stood outside her room watching the medical staff prepare for her treatment, something pulled him in. It wasn't just curiosity. It was a strong sense of compassion. The woman had been through so much, and now she was completely alone, with nothing but fear and confusion. He decided to enter her room and speak with her to find out what had really happened. When he walked in, the woman looked up, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and sadness. She was expecting the usual treatment, being kept at a distance, everyone too scared to even come near her. But the doctor didn't follow the rules. He didn't back away when she reached out a hand in hesitation. Her hand, she warned him, could kill him. It had killed others. But he wasn't afraid. In fact, he was determined to prove that there had to be another way. He reached out, slowly, cautiously, and touched her hand. There was no fear in his heart, only a deep desire to help. The moment their skin touched, there was a strange feeling, like an electric shock. But nothing happened. No death. No sickness. Just a small, quiet moment that left both of them confused. She expected to feel her power rush through him, but it didn't come. Instead, she just felt warmth and a strange sense of calm. For the first time in years, she felt like she wasn't alone. The doctor pulled back, his heart racing, but he wasn't sure why. He stared at her hand, then at her face. She didn't seem like the dangerous woman people said she was. She seemed lost, just like anyone else. He couldn't explain it, but he knew there was something more to this than met the eye. Over the next few days, the woman stayed in the hospital, and the doctor couldn't stop thinking about her. Every time he walked past her room, he could feel that strange pull toward her. He didn't know what had happened when he touched her, but he was sure of one thing. There was more to this than anyone had realized. The hospital staff were nervous. They watched the doctor closely, whispering among themselves. They thought he had taken a risk that was too dangerous. No one, they said, should get close to her, but the doctor couldn't shake the feeling that there was something that they had all missed, something hidden deep within her. So he decided to visit her again. This time, he was more careful, but not because he was afraid. He just wanted to understand her better. He knocked on her door, and when she saw him, Her face lit up with the mixture of surprise and relief. She had expected him to avoid her, just like everyone else. But he hadn't. He came back. They sat together talking for hours. She shared her story, the painful memories of how her condition had slowly taken over her life. She had once been a normal person, with dreams and a future. But that was before her accident. After that, everything changed. She couldn't touch anyone without the fear of causing them harm. Broke. Her life became a series of lonely days, hiding from everyone who might get too close. The doctor listened carefully, his heart aching for her. He could see how much pain she carried, how deeply the fear of hurting others had hurt her. He didn't see a monster in front of him. He saw someone who had been broken by a tragedy. He saw someone who had been misunderstood for so long. As they continued to talk, he began to realize something. Her fear wasn't just from her condition. It was from her own mind. She believed that her touch was fatal, because that was all she had known. What if that belief was what made her touch so dangerous? What if it wasn't her condition that caused the death, but her fear of it? The more she feared, the more powerful her touch became. The doctor decided to test his theory. He told her that he didn't believe her touch was lethal. He didn't believe she was dangerous. She looked at him, unsure if she could trust him. But something in her eyes softened. Maybe, just maybe, she could try. For the first time in years, she reached out again. Her hand hovered in the air for a moment, shaking slightly, but she didn't pull away. The doctor smiled and took her hand, this time without hesitation. He didn't feel anything unusual. No electric shock, no sense of danger. Just the touch of a hand, nothing more. Her face changed as she felt it too. Her heart was racing, but for a different reason now. She wasn't afraid anymore, and neither was he. They sat together in silence, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. Neither of them could fully understand what had just happened, but one thing was clear: they had made a breakthrough. Maybe the woman's touch wasn't the problem after all. Maybe it was her own fear that had been keeping her locked away for so long. The doctor knew they had only just begun to uncover the truth, but for now, it felt like a victory. There was hope again for both of them. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone. The days that followed were filled with unexpected moments of hope. The woman who had once believed that her touch was deadly began to slowly change. The doctor visited her every day, not out of a sense of obligation, but because he genuinely wanted to help her. He wasn't just her doctor anymore. He was her only real connection to the outside world. Every visit felt like a small step forward, a tiny victory. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that she wasn't doomed to a life of isolation. The more time she spent with the doctor, the more she realized that the touch that had once seemed so dangerous might not be as deadly as everyone had believed. But there were still moments of doubt. Moments where she felt that the curse was still hanging over her. What if she was wrong? What if the fear she had carried all these years would eventually catch up with her? One evening, after another long day of conversation, the woman stood up and walked toward the window. She gazed out at the world beyond the hospital, people walking down the street, living their normal lives. For the first time in so long, she felt a longing for that kind of freedom. She wanted to step outside, to feel the sun on her face without the fear of harming someone. But how could she take that step? How could she live without constantly worrying that her touch would hurt someone else? The doctor stood by her side, watching her. He didn't say anything for a long time, just quietly letting her thoughts settle. Then, with a gentle voice, he spoke. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. You're not alone. We can find a way to make this work." The woman turned to him, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "But what if I hurt someone?" "What if I can't control it?" she asked, her voice trembling. He smiled softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It's not about controlling it. It's about understanding it." Desks. You've been carrying this fear for so long, and maybe that fear is what's been holding you back. Let's take it one step at a time. For the first time in years, she felt like someone truly understood. She didn't have to keep hiding. She didn't have to keep pushing everyone away. The doctor wasn't afraid of her. And for that, she was grateful. As the days went on, she grew stronger. The fear still lingered, but it was no longer as overwhelming. She began to trust herself again, and with that trust came a sense of peace. The doctor continued to visit, offering his support and encouragement, never pushing her too hard. Slowly they worked together to break down the walls that had kept her trapped for so long. And then, one day, something miraculous happened. She reached out, not in fear, but in hope. Brett. She extended her hand toward the doctor, not expecting anything to happen, and for the first time, she felt no shock, no rush of power. Just a simple, calm touch. The doctor took her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin. They stood there for a moment, connected by that simple gesture. It was the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. The woman had taken a step toward reclaiming her life, and the doctor had helped her find the courage to do it. The breakthrough had come, but it wasn't the end. The woman now faced the challenge of living a life where she didn't have to hide from everyone. It was one thing to be free within the safety of the hospital room, but it was another thing entirely to step out into the world. She knew that the world wasn't ready for her. But for the first time, she didn't care. The fear that had ruled her life for so long was slowly fading, replaced by something more powerful. Hope. The doctor continued to support her, offering advice and encouragement. Breath. He had seen the progress she had made, and he knew that she could handle whatever came next. But even he couldn't predict what would happen when they finally left the hospital together. One afternoon, they took a walk outside. The sun was shining, and the air was fresh. The woman felt the wind on her face, something she hadn't experienced in years. She looked around at the world she had been so afraid of, and, for the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. As they walked down the street, people glanced at them, some with curiosity, some with uncertainty. The woman's presence still made people uneasy, but she didn't care anymore. She wasn't going to hide in the shadows. But she had been given a second chance at life, and she wasn't going to waste it. They came across a small park, and the doctor suggested they sit on a bench. As they sat there, watching children play in the distance, the woman spoke quietly. "I never thought this day would come. I thought I'd never be able to live a normal life again." The doctor smiled, his eyes full of understanding. "You're already living a normal life. It's not about what others think or how they see you. It's about how you see yourself." She nodded, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She had come so far, and there was still so much more to discover. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer alone. The doctor had shown her that there was more to life than fear and isolation. He had helped her see that she could live again, and for that, she would be forever grateful. As they sat on the bench, the woman smiled, a genuine warm smile that reached her eyes. She had found her way back to the world, and she was ready to take on whatever came next. The days continued to pass, and life for the woman became something she hadn't dared to dream of for years. The fear that had once gripped her, controlling every moment of her existence, slowly started to loosen its hold. She had spent so long hiding, so long believing she was dangerous, but now she was starting to see that the world was different than she had imagined. She wasn't a monster. She was just a person who had been misunderstood. The doctor, now not just a healer but a friend, remained by her side, encouraging her every step of the way. He had shown her a different way of thinking, a way that didn't involve fear and isolation. Breath. Instead, he taught her that healing wasn't just about treating physical wounds. It was about understanding and accepting one's own inner struggles. Despite the progress she had made, there were still moments of doubt. There were still times when she found herself questioning if she could really live a normal life. She worried about the world around her, about how others would react to her. Would they see her the way she had always seen herself, as someone dangerous? Or would they see her for who she truly was? One afternoon, she took a walk by herself. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow on everything around her. She paused at a small cafe, the sound of people talking and laughing drifting out from inside. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she was ready to step into that world. But then, she remembered what the doctor had told her. It wasn't about hiding or staying in the shadows. It was about living. It was about being brave enough to face her fears head-on and walk into the world, not with fear, but with hope. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door and stepped inside the cafe. The noise of conversation stopped for a moment as people turned to look at her. Her heart raced, but she didn't run. She didn't turn away. She smiled gently and walked to the counter, where the barista greeted her with a friendly nod. The woman ordered a simple drink, her hand steady despite the nerves fluttering in her stomach. As she waited, she looked around the room. People were talking, laughing, living. It was so normal. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she could be a part of it. When her drink was ready, she took it and sat by the window. She could feel the eyes of some of the other patrons on her, but this time, it didn't bother her. She wasn't worried about what they thought of her. Round in despair. She was simply enjoying the moment, the warmth of the sun on her skin, the hum of conversation, and the peacefulness of being in a place where she could finally feel like she belonged. Later that evening, as she walked home, she thought about how far she had come. There were still challenges ahead, still moments of doubt, but she knew she wasn't alone anymore. The doctor had helped her see that her past didn't define her. She was no longer defined by fear. She was defined by the strength she had found in herself. When she arrived at her apartment, she sat by the window and watched the sunset. It felt peaceful, calm. She realized that for the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about what might happen. She wasn't planning for the worst. Instead, she was simply enjoying the present. She had let go of the fear that had controlled her for so long, and in its place, there was something far more powerful: hope. The woman had learned to trust herself again. She had learned that the world, while imperfect, wasn't as scary as she had once believed. She had learned that healing wasn't just about fixing her body. It was about accepting herself and her past and moving forward, one step at a time. As the night fell and the city grew quiet, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey wasn't over. There would still be moments of doubt, of fear. But she knew now that she could face them. She wasn't the person she had been. She wasn't the person who had hidden from the world. She was someone new, someone who had found strength in vulnerability, who had learned that even the deepest fears could be overcome with time and the support of others. And with that thought, she smiled softly to herself, knowing that the future was hers to shape.